Stop scrolling. Look up. Look at the nearest electrical outlet or the buzzing power line running down your street. That current isn't just delivering energy to charge your phone. According to a deeply unsettling conspiracy theory, that infrastructure might be acting as a guide rail for something non-physical. We're not talking about simple static interference. We are talking about ghosts, shadow people, and documented instances of unexplained activity concentrated precisely where high-energy lines cross. This idea connects our modern world directly to ancient mysteries, the global network of invisible energy paths known as ley lines. Imagine these lines as the Earth's nervous system, a map of power that runs beneath megalithic structures like Stonehenge and the pyramids. Now, imagine that these lines aren't just natural phenomena, they are pathways, perhaps even portals. The controversial hypothesis states that these energy conduits, whether natural or man-made, provide the necessary boost for non-physical entities to manifest. This could explain everything from localized poltergeists to widespread reports of extraterrestrial contact. Are modern power grids accidentally amplifying the Earth's natural infrastructure, making it easier for things from the other side to interact with us? If you've ever felt a chill in an old building or seen something move in your peripheral vision, you need to understand the shocking science behind the grid. But before we dive deep into the evidence linking haunted houses to transformers, tell me, have you ever heard of the ley line theory before? I want to know what you think is really powering these encounters. Forget flickering basement lights and the sound of footsteps on dusty attic stairs. We're not talking about your average ghost story today. We are asking a question that turns decades of paranormal investigation upside down. What if the reason your haunted location is haunted isn't the tragedy that happened there, but the geology underneath it? What if ghosts aren't random occurrences, but rather non-physical entities using a hidden global power source, an invisible energy grid that covers the entire planet, acting like a cosmic charging station for the supernatural? This is the highly controversial, often ridiculed but utterly fascinating hypothesis of ley lines. Imagine for a moment that the Earth itself is a giant motherboard, and this motherboard has circuits. These circuits, known as ley lines, are theorized pathways of natural electromagnetic energy flowing across the globe. They are not physical wires, they are invisible currents, often said to be strongest where two specific geological or water features meet. The initial idea dates back to the 1920s, thanks to amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins. Watkins noticed an insane coincidence. If you took a map of the British countryside and drew straight lines connecting ancient landmarks, like Neolithic standing stones, burial mounds, and prehistoric temples, they often lined up perfectly. It was like someone centuries ago had built giant invisible railway tracks across the landscape. But wait, it gets crazier. Proponents of the ley line theory suggest that ancient civilizations weren't just picking random spots for their sacred sites. They were building them on top of these energy lines to harness the power, perhaps for ritual, healing, or communication. Think of these ancient structures, Stonehenge, the pyramids, massive cathedrals, as giant batteries or antennas strategically placed on the planet's natural hotspots. Now let's bring the ghosts back into the equation. If these lines are pathways for natural energy, what happens when a non-physical entity, a spirit, a residual haunting, whatever you want to call it, needs to manifest in our physical world? They need massive amounts of kinetic energy. They need a boost. This is where the ley line theory provides the perfect mechanism. The line acts like a superhighway for spiritual activity. If a spirit is trying to make a noise, drop the temperature in a room, or even physically interact with an object, they are going to gravitate toward the place where the energy flow is highest. Think of it like trying to connect to Wi-Fi. You can stand anywhere and try to send a message, but if you stand right next to the router, the ley line hotspot, your signal is going to be infinitely stronger. Haunted places, according to this theory, are simply places with great reception. And this isn't just theory based on ancient stones. Modern scientific analysis, while rejecting the spirit grid part, has confirmed that many of these alleged ley line intersections exhibit measurable anomalies. We're talking about subtle but distinct spikes in low-frequency magnetic fields, or high concentrations of specific minerals like quartz, which is piezoelectric, meaning it generates an electric charge when subjected to mechanical stress. The Earth itself is vibrating, and quartz acts like an amplifier. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Earth's hidden secrets, smash that like button. It helps us unravel more of these mysteries for you. Now let's talk about the modern twist. If ley lines are real, how do they relate to the power lines and infrastructure we use every single day? E tem mais detalhe que você não imagina. Many historical routes and even modern infrastructure, roads, railroads, and yes, our high-voltage power lines, were often built over or parallel to these established ancient pathways. Why? Because the ancient pathways often followed the path of least resistance, the easiest route across the land. This creates a terrifying possibility. The modern power grid, the one humming above your head right now, might not just be running electricity to your home, it could be amplifying the ancient ley line energy beneath it, creating a double-dose hotspot for paranormal activity. Imagine a ghost trying to manifest. They are already getting a natural boost from the quartz-rich ley line, and then bam! They get another massive surge from the 60 Hz electromagnetic field radiating from the power transmission tower sitting directly on top of that ancient alignment. This could explain why some modern homes, built nowhere near any known tragedy, still exhibit intense paranormal phenomena. It's not the house that's haunted, it's the coordinates. And the weirdest part, there is data suggesting a correlation between high electromagnetic field exposure and reported paranormal experiences. Studies have shown that exposing people to specific low-frequency magnetic fields, fields similar to those found near power lines or geological fault lines, can induce feelings of presence, anxiety, and even auditory and visual hallucinations. So when you see a spectral figure in the corner of your eye, is it a dead relative? Or is your brain simply being zapped by a powerful localized energy field, a field that ancient cultures intentionally tapped into, and that our modern world may have accidentally turbocharged? The Earth isn't just a rock floating in space, it's a dynamic, electrically charged organism, and maybe, just maybe, we are surrounded by an unseen grid that is constantly whispering secrets to those who know how to listen, or to those who are simply standing on the busiest street corner of the Ghost Highway. If you want to see more investigations into the mysteries that science can't quite explain, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. Tell me in the comments below, do you live near a known ancient site or a major power line? Have you experienced anything strange? Let's discuss the grid. Forget everything you thought you knew about haunted houses being random bad luck. What if I told you that ghosts, spirits, and maybe even UFOs are actually using the Earth's natural energy grid like an invisible cosmic highway? We are diving deep into the controversial world of ley lines. These aren't power cables. They are hypothetical straight lines connecting historical landmarks, megalithic structures like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, and ancient temples across the globe. Proponents of this theory, like the British antiquarian Alfred Watkins, who popularized the concept in the 1920s, noticed these perfect, inexplicable alignments. But the real twist came later. Researchers began suggesting these lines weren't just geographical markers, they were conduits for something far stranger: energy. What kind of energy are we talking about? We are discussing subtle geodetic energy, often associated with measurable electromagnetic fields, or EMF, and very low-frequency radio waves. This energy is generated naturally by deep fault lines, underground water flows, or unique mineral compositions, especially deposits rich in quartz. Think of quartz for a second. It is a piezoelectric material. That means when you subject it to mechanical stress, like the constant minute shifting of the Earth's crust, it generates an electrical charge. Now imagine massive veins of quartz running beneath ancient sites, constantly vibrating and generating a steady low-level electrical current. Now let's connect this to the paranormal. Think of your cell phone. It needs a strong signal, a transmission tower to communicate. What if non-physical entities, like spirits, need a natural energy boost, a consistent power station to manifest in our physical reality? Every experienced ghost hunter you see on TV carries an EMF meter. Why? Because the prevailing yet highly debated hypothesis in the paranormal community is that when a spirit attempts to interact with our world, to move a chair, whisper a name, or appear visually, it requires massive amounts of localized energy. And guess where the highest, most consistent natural energy spikes are found? Right along these ley lines. It's not just about the straight lines, though. The real action happens at the nodes, the critical intersections where multiple ley lines cross. If a ley line is a highway, the node is the major city interchange, the place where all the traffic concentrates. These are the locations historically linked to the most intense hauntings, the most persistent poltergeist activity, and bizarrely, even the highest number of reported UFO sightings. Ancient civilizations were meticulous about where they built their sacred spaces. They didn't place the pyramids or cathedrals randomly. They placed them precisely on these energy hotspots. Did they inherently know that these nodes were places where the veil between worlds felt thinner, perhaps because the high natural EMF reduced the vibrational frequency needed for non-physical beings to break through? This idea that Earth's geology acts like a giant circuit board is fascinating, but here is the detail that truly throws a wrench in the mainstream scientific view. It might not just be the Earth's energy powering these events. It might be our energy. But what if I told you that the energy source for these paranormal manifestations isn't just geological but psychological? Some cutting-edge researchers hypothesize that human consciousness, especially high-stress emotions generated during moments of historical tragedy, think battlefields, old hospitals or execution sites, essentially charges the ley line nodes. Intense fear, profound sorrow, sudden trauma, these massive emotional spikes act like a capacitor, trapping residual energy within the Earth's grid, making these nodes permanent power stations for paranormal activity. It's not just a ghost haunting a spot. It's the Earth recording and broadcasting the trauma, using the ley line as the antenna. And there is one more detail about these energy grids that you simply won't imagine: the correlation between ley line nodes and modern infrastructure. Many major cities today, even those built long after the ancient temples, seem to be situated directly on these same powerful intersections. Is this a coincidence, or did our ancestors perhaps subconsciously feel drawn to these points of intense natural power, leading them to be the perpetual centers of human civilization? It makes you think twice the next time you walk past an old cathedral or a notoriously haunted old road. You might not just be crossing a street, you might be walking directly across a cosmic power line. If you're finding this connection between ancient maps, Earth's geology, and modern ghost hunting absolutely fascinating, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started exploring the places where science and the unexplained collide. Let me know in the comments, do you think ghosts are using Earth's power grid, or is the EMF spike just a byproduct of their manifestation? Forget flickering lights being a coincidence. What if the energy infrastructure we built, the very power lines running above your house, isn't just delivering electricity, but accidentally facilitating the ultimate cosmic phone call? Today we are diving deep into a theory so bizarre, it connects ancient monolithic structures, modern electrical grids, and the unsettling reality of paranormal activity. We're asking, are ghosts just hitching a ride on our power lines? For centuries, researchers have noted that unexplained phenomena, ghost sightings, UFOs, and strange magnetic anomalies don't happen randomly. They cluster, and they often cluster along what we call ley lines. Imagine the Earth is not just a sphere of rock and water, but a gigantic living computer circuit board. Ley lines are the natural data cables. They are hypothesized lines of energy, invisible rivers of geomagnetic force that crisscross the globe. Think of Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, or even the Nazca lines. What links these ancient, massive structures? Many were built precisely where these ley lines intersect, suggesting our ancestors knew exactly where the Earth's natural energy was most concentrated. They were building powerful antennae on geomagnetic hotspots. Now, why does this matter to a spirit floating around your attic? The fundamental working hypothesis in parapsychology is simple. Ghosts need energy to manifest. They need power to move a door, whisper a name, or even generate the cold spot that makes the hair on your arms stand up. If a spirit is a low-frequency energetic signature, then the ley line intersection acts as a giant cosmic filling station. When an entity needs to materialize or interact with our dimension, it drifts to these high-energy nodes and literally siphons off the Earth's natural charge. But here is where the story gets modern, and frankly much creepier. When humanity began wiring the world in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, we didn't just build a power grid, we overlaid a second, incredibly powerful electromagnetic network right on top of the ancient natural one. Think of our electrical grid, the massive power transmission lines, the substations, the residential wiring, as a massive, organized scar on the Earth's surface. This system pulses with 60 Hz alternating current, generating huge, predictable electromagnetic fields, or EMFs. Now picture this. You have the ancient, steady ley line energy, and then you slam a pulsing, modern, high-voltage electromagnetic field right over it. Where these two grids overlap, you don't just get a filling station, you get a supercharged cosmic amplifier. This helps explain one of the most consistent findings in paranormal research. the correlation between high EMF readings and paranormal activity. Investigators armed with EMF meters often find spikes of energy right before or during a ghost encounter. It's not that the ghost is the EMF reading, it's that the ghost is using that available energy like a megaphone. It's like trying to make a phone call in the wilderness versus calling from a 5G tower. The spirit might be able to whisper something in the woods, but put it next to a major urban power substation that happens to sit on an ancient ley line, and suddenly it has enough juice to slam a door shut or appear visually solid. But the question is, why do they seem to follow the wires themselves? Researchers like John A. Keel, famous for investigating the Mothman phenomena, propose that these non-physical entities don't just use the energy at the intersection, they use the lines themselves as conduits. Imagine those massive high-voltage transmission towers marching across the landscape. They aren't just carrying electricity, they are generating a massive channeled wave of electromagnetic noise. If a spirit is inherently resonant with these frequencies, those power lines become perfect straight-shot highways across the continent. They are essentially ghost transit systems. And this leads to one of the most mind-bending theories about electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. If you've ever listened to an EVP recording, the voices are often faint, distorted, and sound like they are cutting through static or radio interference. The hypothesis suggests that the entities are not creating the sound directly. They are manipulating the ambient electromagnetic energy, the noise and static produced by our electrical systems, to modulate a message. They aren't speaking into a microphone. They are momentarily hijacking the frequency produced by the nearest power source. When you hear a distorted "get out" on a recording, you might actually be hearing a spirit using the noise from the grid to transduce its intent into audible sound waves. But here's the unexpected plot twist that few mainstream researchers ever talk about. When the electrical grid was first being designed, particularly in the US, early engineers were obsessed with efficiency and symmetry. Many early power systems were laid out using geometric patterns that, purely by coincidence, or perhaps driven by subconscious cultural memory of sacred geometry, often mirrored the underlying ley line structures. This isn't a secret government program. It's a design based on maximizing transmission distance and minimizing loss. But the result is a system that is frighteningly resonant. Think about the places most people report intense, repeated activity: old hospitals, factories, and military bases. These are not just places of high emotional trauma. They are also locations that require absolutely massive, dedicated, and often subterranean power systems. When these systems are placed directly on a geomagnetic ley line node, you create what some call a paranormal superhub. The phenomenon isn't random, it's structured, it's predictable, and it might mean that every time you plug in your phone, turn on your television, or even drive past a high-voltage substation, you are inadvertently boosting the signal for something non-physical trying desperately to break through. So the next time the lights flicker in your house, don't just assume it's a bad bulb or an old fuse box. Ask yourself, is the power grid just supplying my home with electricity, or is it also providing the essential high-octane fuel for an entity trying to send a message? If this exploration into Earth's hidden energy grid and the paranormal blew your mind, smash that like button right now and comment below. Do you live near a major power line, and have you ever experienced anything strange? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unexplained. Sleep well, and remember, the energy flowing through your walls might not be entirely yours.